So I'm Danny Hernandez from Westview Middle School, robotics computer science teacher. And a lot of people know me because of the robotics. But what I'm going to show today is actually what I do with 90% of the other students that I work with, because robotics is just a small group that I have. And that's going to be a lot of my kids who, I mean, they're there because they want to be there. But what about everybody else? And so mine is, when you see this image, and I know Tessa's probably in my camp. I see it, I look at the words, I'm like, sweet, we're doing some math. Like, let's go. And I used to start with this. We're gonna learn about gear ratios. But what about these kids? And this was me when I was in school, and teachers putting up, and we have to read 20 pages, and we're all gonna sit here quietly, and this is how I felt. And so I go through and I try to do my best with figuring out, what does the student need? So my job, I'm constantly in this design process with the kids. So we use this, we've all seen the design process, I hope, of some kind, and it's always learning through failure. And so one of the #1 rules in my class is respect. And when I ask the students, who should you respect, they all point at me. And I'm like, no, it's you. You're the #1 person you need to respect. You need to respect that you can do it, that you can achieve it, and that you can work hard. And then when we look at, why do we need to know the information from all of our classes? Why do we care about school? Why do we care about language arts? Why do we care about math? It's so they can be ready. And I try to do that through application. The Vex Clawbot is the simplest build we have. It's easy. All the kids can do it. They can be successful. We can put it together in 2 weeks. But if I go straight to this, that's when the learning really happens. Because I'll sit back and wait. We finally go into competition. We put them out on the field, and then this starts happening. And now we start bickering. It's the driver. They don't know how to drive. They switch the remotes. They start driving. It's happening again. It's happening again. Well, you need a compact gear ratio. And they're like, what's that? It's like, oh, remember those fractions you didn't care about? Let's go take a look at those fractions and see how they work. So we start doing the math. Now I have their attention because their robot is failing repeatedly. And so we go through and look at why it's important. Carnival games. We're building very quick and simple to put something together with cardboard. Cut it, draw lines on it, glue it together, great. All right, now let's make it out of wood. They just start drawing lines. No, it's not going to work. We have to measure everything out accurately to the 1/8 inch, building a box that is going to work perfectly so that we can get a game on there for kids to play. Now we're learning how to use measurement tools. The wiring process with some of the hardware we do, and the student who is saying, I have everything done correctly, why doesn't it work? Let's look at where all your wires are. Is everything in there exactly where it needs to be? And then paying attention to detail. This is one of my favorites. I wrote everything perfectly. It's all typed in there right. Well, let's take a look at some of your spelling, and let's see what letters might be missing. And then, as I'm working with this student, I can go back and take a look. It's like, this is their language arts grade. So this student is struggling in language arts. It's like, okay, so how do we connect that to the coding? How do we make sure that you need to be paying attention in there and learning, because now we're applying it. And with this one, this is one of my big ones here, and it's what I constantly am doing. Believing in yourself to be able to think critically so that you can have a good education. And then we apply that even more with a student who's struggling with 1, 2, 3 lines of code, and then can build an entire game once they've gained that confidence to be able to find where's that problem. And these are kids who are struggling in a lot of different courses. And then being able to tie in the scientific method along with the design process, researching, doing all the homework we need to before we start building robots, and understanding where the problem is, guessing, creating a hypothesis. Where do you think the problem is? How do we test it? How do we find it? What steps need to be taken? And then, why do we care? so you can grow up to become mentors. You can be those high school leaders. You can come back and work with our students. I've seen some of the other slides. We have those high school kids coming down and working with our middle school kids, working with our elementary kids to hopefully help teach them that you should care, because you're going to use everything you're learning in all of your classes in life at some point. And we use those life experiences to understand that's why I need to know all of this.